any other way, and that causes stress in and of itself.
You know, you say that, and I want to keep going with that thought, but the thing that pops into my head is, I wonder if a lot of times folks don't really realize
I think
how
that's
much
exactly
stress
it.
they're under,
Yes.
right? Because I think of myself, you think of people who, and it's just one example, but people who have high capacity, right? People who just have a high capacity to just do a lot of things and enjoy doing a lot of things,
Yeah.
right? And enjoy the diversity, but don't catch.
Right.
Either they don't understand the symptoms of stress, and so when they feel it, you know, or it becomes so normal that just
They
becomes
become
the
accustomed
norm.
to it.
They're accustomed to it and don't realize, right? And so when you think about the symptoms of stress,
Yeah.
sometimes people don't even know what the symptoms of stress are.
Yeah.
I had to learn that in my adulthood, what my stress pattern was.
That's right.
I figured out that whenever I would get unexplainably nauseous,
Right.
for example,
Yeah. And it's different for everybody.
it is different for everybody. It's different for everybody. I would just feel sick to my stomach
Yeah.
and not really know why.
Yeah.
And it would just be, right? Or just that agitation. That's
Right.
for me. There's just that agitation just can't settle down, just kind of always like this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those are things that I have become aware of,
Right.
you know, in the last many years, that those are my stress symptoms. When I want to sleep a whole lot.
Right.
Oh,
I thought that was normal.
You see, I thought that was normal too. 'Cause
It's
I
only
like
normal to a
sleep.
grad school student.
I was
That's
gonna
life.
say, wait a
Grad
minute.
school student.
Or being really moody.
Yeah.
I can get moody. Like when I'm stressed, depression is heavier.
Right.
When I'm super stressed,
Right.
right? Right? But if I'm not paying attention to that,
Yeah. That's why we need accountability.
that's why we need accountability.
Someone who can pay attention on our behalf and say, you're not acting like yourself, even though you think you are. And say, no. I had a friend of mine some years ago who cautioned me to take my blood pressure more often. That's a huge sign of stress in your body. Take your blood pressure. And we know that it's potentially detrimental to your life if you don't manage your blood pressure. My blood pressure is pretty good. It could be better, but because there was an awareness that was made, I try to, check my blood pressure. I go to the doctor, but also get on one of those Heege machines and check blood pressure, because awareness is the beginning of change.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, again, even know what's going on in their body. We think that if we don't feel it right away, that nothing's going on. But when you begin to feel something, it's probably further on than it should be.
It should be.
In
Yeah.
terms of what's going
That's
on
true.
with you.
That's true. So what's it like when you're feeling stressed? How do you know? Do you know your signs of
You
stress?
really want me to say it? When
Can you say?
I hesitated, like, wait.
Say at the break.
So I know I'm stressed when I want to punch someone in the face.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Because I'm really.
Your patience level.
Yeah, it's because I have high patience and I have a high tolerance for a lot of things. But when I get to the point where I'm like, man, I could just take someone's teeth out of their head, I'm like, oh, Mom, you need to go do some yoga. You need to get a massage. You need to do something because you are out of control. And so once I get there, I didn't realize it was last year of grad school. And I kept clenching. That's another thing that I do. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'm biting down on my teeth. And my heart was racing. And I was like, God, what's wrong with me? I think I'm having a heart attack. So I went to the doctor and he was like, no, you're stressed. And I didn't think about it because you're so used to doing papers, we were interning, we're working, we're doing all these things. And when I realized that, I said, well, wait a minute. I'm going to give myself a heart attack over here. So that's one of the ways that.
Yeah. So how about you? How do you feel your stress?
Ooh. My problem is not recognizing my stress because I keep going and going and going, and I don't give myself time for that self-care. And it's really hard for me to recognize when I'm stressed. I think
Do you think that has to do with your being a police officer?
it does.
And
It does, because
That's a high level of stress.
Yeah.
Occupation.
I don't have the time, nor can I afford to be stressed, because I always have to be alert. I always have to be vigilant and know my surroundings and know what I'm doing and where I am. So it's kind of hard for me to recognize when I'm stressed, because I'm just go all the time. And the only thing I can think of is if I'm extremely tired and I'm oversleeping is when I'm stressed. But it's really hard for me to recognize my stress level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about you, Doc?
Well, I know when I'm exhausted. Case in point, just to keep it real, I was having trouble driving
real.
here this morning. You know when it's hard for you to keep your eyes open, especially when you're driving. That my body is very tired, and so I've set in my mind and going to put it on my calendar in the next week. I've made some time. I'm going to get some rest.
Yeah.
With we're in the midst of finals at Richmond, but with Thanksgiving week, I'll get a chance to get some sleep. One way that I handle stress is I make time on a Saturday morning every now and then when I can, to just lay in the bed and sleep, or just rest, even if I'm not asleep, just lay in the bed and reflect, and maybe get up and get my Bible and a cup of coffee and either my iPad or a regular pad, and just reflect. I need time to reflect. That helps me de-stress, to process everything that I've been doing and what's going on in my life, to kind of make sense of it. Otherwise, it's all jumbled up together. And when that's the case, it's hard to unwind and and get things off of your mind, so you can rest well. Because it's easy at times to lay down, but it doesn't make sense to get physical rest if your mind and your emotions are stressed out.
Right.
So you still are not getting proper rest,
Physical rest.
even if you're laying in the bed for 12 hours, but your mind won't stop going. And so we have to find a way to get our minds and our emotions to calm down.
And so that's another way to know, right? When your mind is racing and you do lay down and you can't get your mind to stop, so that you can actually get some rest. Yeah, that's another sign of stress for sure. And then you think about the impact of that. Well, part of it too, go back a little bit, you said you can't really get the rest until your mind really starts to process through it and works its way through all of that kind of stuff, right? It takes some time to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes folks think that if I just get a good night's rest, I'll be okay, right? Well, that's not necessarily the case.
True.
You
Right.
could take something to help you sleep, and then you get a good night's rest. But in reality, the stress is still there. I think about vacations, right?
Right.
People take a week vacation. Really and truly, what I figured out for myself is I need 2 weeks at a time. I need a week just to unwind and put down things
Right.
so that I can then release and actually get the rest. I find by the end of the week, I'm just starting to put things down.
Right.
I'm just starting to, and so I'm not rested because I'm just really starting to, so it just takes time, especially if you haven't built a habit of self-care.
There has to be a process.
That's right.
For you in how you can unwind. Some people might come home and have a glass of wine. Some people go to the gym and work out. And get things off of them that way. Some people can come home and read something that's not stressful and violent and crazy. Some people can watch a little TV and they're okay. You have to find what works for you. What's your process and procedure to de-stress and to relax. What works for other people may not work for you.
Right.
Some people like to go out with friends, and that helps them. Other people like to be alone and just like I said, process their own thoughts. So we have to develop the same way we have a process of how to get to work, how to go to school, how to study, how to take care of family members, how to maintenance our vehicles. We need a process of self-care and something we can go to say, okay, I need to go to the library. You know, I love coffee. A lot of people know I love coffee. I love to go sit in a Starbucks and just, you know,
If
reflect
we didn't know
and
you
read.
loved coffee before,
Ooh.
we figured it out this morning.
Yes, you did. Yes,
figured it out
ma'am.
this morning.
I'm good right now.
Right, so Reverend Dr. Houston got here to the studio at like
Tell
20
him, Dr.
till,
Sutherland.
25 till. No coffee, no nothing.
No
And
breakfast.
he was like, oh, this ain't happening this morning.
Gotta have that coffee.
He had to
Coffee in the
leave.
building.
Because there was no coffee in the building.
Whose office has coffee?
So we know you love coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And we're right there with you.
Yes.
We got our stuff right here.
Cheers.
But we'll be back
Dilly
in a
dilly.
minute. We'll be back in a minute on the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show. We'll continue talking about stress and how to manage stress in a healthy way and how community can help us with doing that. We'll be right back.
Do you want peace in your family relationships instead of conflict? Do you want a safe, loving marriage instead of one that is failing? Are you troubled about what's happening with your children and need help for them? At Legacy Changers Counseling Centers, the goal is to strengthen individuals and families with cutting-edge emotional and mental health interventions. The exceptionally trained counselors at Legacy provide the specialized guidance you need in a safe environment of belonging so that you can make the life changes you and your loved ones need. Get real help for your emotional and relationship needs. Call today at 404-334-7575. That's 404-334-7575. You can also find us on the web at legacychangerscounseling.com. Call now and transform your life today. 404-334-7575 or legacychangerscounseling.com.
Everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show. We're in the studio today with Reverend Dr. Charles Houston, Associate Pastor at Word of Faith Ministries, and we're talking about stress and how community can help with healthy management of stress. During the break, we talked a little bit about music. There's a musical interlude that goes on, and on Facebook Live, you guys may not hear that, but the folks who are listening on IBNX hear it. And the conversation came up just in terms of music as a type of intervention for stress. And I was telling the story about how a conversation I had many years ago about a young person who said that rock music relaxes him. And I couldn't kind of hang on to that because rock music hypes me up. It agitates me. It doesn't really do that for me. And so we talked about a little bit, just what brain centers that may trigger. The other piece of it, though, for me is what I think I find is that there are associations that we make with music. Right.
Yeah,
and so
right.
through the course of our life, there are certain types of music that we listen to in certain types of settings. And so there becomes an association. And so if there is a type of music that has always been in a safe space in your life, then
Right.
maybe that is the soothing piece.
Yeah.
Or if there's a type of music. So
We associate.
We associate, right? And so maybe that young man, for whatever reason, rock music was associated with something. Some maybe he listened to it with his dad, and his dad is no longer there. But this is not the situation. I'm just surmising that dad's not there anymore. But it was something that he and dad enjoyed together, and so for him, going back to that space is an association with his father.
Yeah.
And maybe it who knows. But music can be very helpful in just kind of soothing the savage beast.
That's right. That's right.
So we were talking just in terms of types of stress, emotional stress, physical symptoms of stress that we talked about. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what that looks like in terms of impact on the family, right? And so you talked about rage, right? You talked about wanting to beat somebody's head in.
Isn't that horrible?
It's horrible.
As a therapist, that's
Nobody's
terrible.
going to come to you.
Nobody's
going to come to you.
But wait a minute, I have learned how to manage that piece of me.
Well,
Which is a good thing.
this is a very good thing, and more than likely, when you describe getting to that point, right, it's like you were saying, more than likely, there was a whole lot of stuff, stress,
Yeah.
building up to that point that had there been intervention and accountability
Right.
and management of the stress
Right.
early on, you would never have gotten to the point where you felt like, right? And so same thing, if there had, for me, when I get sick or nauseous and want to throw up and can't really understand why I'm feeling so yucky, had I intervened or had someone say, what are you doing?
Right.
Like way back when, I might not have gotten to the point where I'm feeling sick,
Right.
because of the stress that I'm under.
I remember sitting in class one time, and this gentleman came in to speak, and he said, as you begin your practice, there will be certain things that you'll realize you can see so many clients in a day. Some people can see 7 clients, and that's their max, and they can add in, going out a networking event and all these different things. And he said, once you realize what that number is,
Your threshold.
your threshold, absolutely. Once you realize what your threshold is for a day, then at that point, I feel like for me, I know when I've hit that limit. And so I can multitask a lot of different things in my day. But about 7, 8 o'clock at night, I've ran all day. I'm starting to shut down. And if you push me past that time, I start to get really agitated. And I get to that place where the old wants to pop out. I'm like, no, it's time to go home and take a shower. Stop it.
Okay, so, but that makes me think, if you're hitting the wall at 8 o'clock, that makes me think, are we really supposed to be pushing to the wall? Right?
We shouldn't.
Right. I mean,
Excellent
if
point.
we're really saying that we're exercising good self-care and we're managing stress well, then we're not pushing ourselves to the point where we can't go anymore and then shutting it down to say, okay, it's time for me to shut it down. It means that we're kind of thinking about, okay, well, how do I go to a point where I still feel well when I stop? I still have a sense of feeling okay and healthy when I choose to stop. right? There's that piece. And then there's the other piece that you said, and it makes, because I'm thinking about me. You saying all this, and I'm like, oh man. I'm thinking about the whole multitasking thing, right? Women can do that really well.
do.
That's true.
And I think that we create stress for ourselves
We do.
by how much we multitask, because we just do it, right?
Yeah.
And I can think through the day, you're doing counseling, and then there's a 10-minute break between this session and the next session. Oh, what can I do in this 10 minutes? Right? And then you squeeze something in, and you make a phone call and pay a bill.
Right.
And then comes the next session. Right? Oh, I got an hour till the next session after that. Oh, man, I can run to the store and take care of my grocery shopping, get it done, get
Drop
back
off
in
at the
time,
house, yep.
drop off at the house, get back in time for my next session. I'm good to go. And we're accomplishing all these things. I was talking with a friend of mine who's a neuropsychologist, and he said, Sonja, you neglect to understand that you're supposed to take small chunks of time throughout your day to rest your brain.
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
He said, people don't understand that just 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there has such compounded long-term effect on the stress that your body feels. Folks who are dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia today, part of it for them was there was no brain rest, self-care type stuff going on early on. He said there are studies that show that for folks that it pushes off dementia if you have practices in today of taking brief moments of time where he said, Sonja, it's something as simple as you stop, get up from your chair at work, go someplace else, sit down, close your eyes, and just do 10 minutes of breathing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Just
Yeah.
do 10 minutes of breathing. Don't think about anything. Just, even if you need like an aid, like that app Calm, there are lots of apps that you can put on your phone, right? He said 10 minutes a day, twice a day, will have huge long-term benefits on your stress level and on your brain function and how much your brain deteriorates and how quickly it deteriorates in old age.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
And I did not know that.
Thank you for sharing, because, you know, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
wow, that's definitely impactful for me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
It makes me think about this was true in college, and it's become true, you know, even now. I will be 50 years old next month, and I
happy
still
50th.
value. Thank you.
You know, the day over 40.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I have to give you that money back. But the value of what we call power naps. 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, those gaps that you talked about, those are very important. A 20-minute power nap can help you go another 3-4 hours. And I think in that process, you rest your body, but your brain is also being
Yeah.
rested. To speak to what your friend, the neuroscientist, said. But we have to get to the point where we recognize that we have to pull back. I was just thinking when you were talking about how even in the physical, your muscles need to relax and rest. And if they don't, then they'll eventually pull or tear.
Yeah. Right.
So I feel guilty because I don't do that.
I know.
He told me, and I
And
started
you're just
doing
now
it.
sharing.
Yeah, I started doing it, and then
You got busy.
busy. Right, I got busy. Right, and so I'm constantly trying to revamp my calendar because I also have a tendency, and don't catch myself, to schedule myself back to back to back to back, and don't schedule breaks.
I do the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because you feel like you have so much to do, you know. And at the end of the day, we're not that important.
I agree. I agree for
Just
me.
not that important.
I don't feel I am at
And
all.
you know what? If we don't meet with somebody for today, you know what?
What's the worst that can happen?
What is the
That's
worst
what I
that
was
can
talking
happen?
about before. You know, what's worst case scenario if you don't do this or get that done? But one thing, I want to thank you for telling us that, because like I mentioned before, we all need accountability. So now the three of us
Yes, I'm
are
gonna
going to
ask.
make sure, Dr. Sutherland,
Oh boy.
Monique's writing it down right now.
I did. I just wrote it down.
What I
Thank
asked
you.
for? What did I ask
But
for?
that's real, because
It
I
is.
don't know if you guys
is.
have noticed in the news, in health news, it's becoming more prevalent that we're seeing dementia and Alzheimer's cases,
Yeah.
and at younger
Earlier.
ages.
Yes.
You know, so that's why I'm sitting here like, oh my God, like I will definitely make this a practice for myself. Wow.
Learn how to rest. That we're not taught that in school.
No, we're not.
Learn
Although
how
at
to
Richmond,
rest.
we're starting.
Oh,
to-
yes,
To
yes.
really, with our Thrive
Our Thrive
initiative there,
campaign,
that's a whole
yes.
nother story.
Oh yeah.
But, you know, not only should we learn to rest, we should learn to pace.
Yes. That's good. That's
We need
very
to learn
good.
to pace,
Yeah.
right? And intentionally so, right? And you know what?
Like a marathon runner.
Like a marathon runner, right? And I think of some of the most successful people that I know, and I don't know many CEOs, but the ones that I do know, they start off the day at 5 in the morning in the gym or some type of exercise.
Yeah.
And in my mind, over the years, I've always thought, I'm trying to turn over at 5 o'clock. I'm not, but they have built patterns of self-care because they understand that it impacts not only their functioning during the day, but it impacts their longevity,
Yes.
right? There are people who understand that and have grasped it, right? And so it is something to grasp. And it's hard to shift your world to develop habits that will allow you to be more focused,
Right.
and I think folks neglect or don't really recognize that stressed individuals aren't really functioning at full capacity. Brain wise and how we think about things, at least I know for me, I don't think as clearly when I'm stressed.
Right. Yeah.
And now, I'm pretty smart, but I still, I'm not thinking as clearly as I could when I'm stressed. I forget things.
That's what nervousness does to us too.
Yes.
When you get nervous, you can know all the answers on an exam. But if you haven't trained yourself to handle nervousness or keep it at bay, you can forget half of what you studied and
3/4.
that you knew.
All of it. Yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about then how a stressed individual impacts their family potentially, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we talk about stress and we talk about how it shows up. We talk about how it happens. Now, so we take our stressed person who has multitasked throughout the day and we get home to family, husband, children, whatever. What can that look like? I'm not saying nothing because I know how that used to look for me.
Well,
I surely do.
I will say this as an example, something that my wife and daughter just recently told me. And normally I'm not like this, but they told me recently I've just been kind of not myself. It's kind of, self-focused, I think was the word. Or and what we reflected on was something that my wife did tell me, that she's works out of town currently. And so my daughter's 17 years old, and so she's working on getting into college and keeping her grades up in school. And so her schedule is hectic, and a lot of times I have to take her places. So on top of that, I have grad school, I have my mother-in-law that lives with us that we take care of. So needless to say, there's numerous things going on. All my responsibilities at the church, I love my job. But when you're doing 7 different things on a daily basis, it takes a toll. And my wife said to me, the reason that you've been like that lately is because it's overwhelming. The schedule you're carrying right now is huge. And I had to sit back and address the fact that she's right. And she said that it would be like that. So she didn't want me to take the number of classes that I took at Richmond for this semester. But I wanted to take them. I'm trying to pace myself, right?
How many did you take?
Just 3, actually.
Oh,
And I say just 3, but
That's not bad.
2 weekly and an
No,
intensive.
That's
Yeah.
not bad.
But that with
Added on top of everything
right
else.
my job
Sure.
and having multiple counseling sessions a day, and just numerous things. So I had to admit that I wasn't being my best self with my family. And the thing about it is, I'm thankful for that. At 49 years of age, I know how to listen to people.
Yeah.
I know how to listen to my
Right.
wife. I know how to listen to my 17-year-old, who also gives me wisdom and good insight. We have to learn how to be a part of the family and not try to run the family.
Oh gosh, that's a whole nother.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
yes.
again, I feel more privileged to have the people in my life that I do than, like I deserve. I don't deserve my wife. I don't deserve my daughter. I don't deserve my pastor. I don't deserve you guys. That's just how I see life. And so I'm a servant at heart. And so my mindset says I need to serve and take care of the people in my life that God has given me. So that's a different mindset.
Well, let's talk about that mindset when we come back, because we have a lot of people who are listening who are servants,
Yes.
right? And how do you take care of yourself if you are a servant? We'll be right back on the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show.
You're listening to IBNX Radio, the home of the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show, right here every Monday from 10 a.m. to noon.
All right, welcome back to the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show. And so we on the break got to an interesting question about why people don't do more to manage stress intentionally. Mm-hmm. What is it that causes us to not want to take a break? What is it that causes us to not want to commit to going to the gym or taking that walk or whatever it is? And you said
that we don't really value the things that are ultimately important. Self-care is important. It's mentally, we may know we need to take care of ourselves better, because if you don't take care of you, then the 20 people and the 10 things you do on a daily basis are all going to fall to pieces. And so we have to see it to the point of, okay, even if I'm not caring for myself the way I should, I need to think of it as a part of my system of being able to continue to take care of other people. As a therapist, I need to have a program of self-care for myself, because if I don't, the people that I see, I'm going to do harm to, which is like one of the number one rules of a therapist is to do no harm. And you can't be impatient with clients. You can't be curt or angry or upset with clients. That's detrimental to them, and it makes you useless as a counselor.
Yeah, well, go back a little bit, because you said if we take time, and not as counselors, just in general, if we take time to do the self-care, all the 10 things that we have are going to fall apart. But are they really going to fall apart?
Well, that's what we think.
Why do we think that?
Bad teaching. Honestly.
Yes.
Honestly. And to be honest, and that's an excellent question, because we believe what we see as opposed to believing what we should have been taught. There's principles in life, even if you're not a person of faith. I talk to people who may not even know God, and I say, okay, we all agree on the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You want to be treated like you want to treat other people like you want to be treated.
Right.
And you don't have to get deep and spiritual to understand and agree with that. If you don't want to be disrespected, then be careful not to disrespect other people. If you don't want to be dismissed, or you don't want to be treated in a harsh or negative way, then don't treat other people like that. And so we have to turn away from sometimes social media, sometimes the television, sometimes certain connections and relationships that are not adding to us but taking from us. And we have to be honest about, okay, I say we have to do an associate inventory. Who in my life adds to me and multiplies me in a good way versus who takes from me and divides me in my mindset and how I live.
Okay, and so you're talking then about building community that will help me to manage my stress.
Right.
And then in addition to that, you said previously, in answering the question, well, why do people believe that things will fall apart?
Right.
The other side of that question is, why do people need to believe that things will fall apart if they step away to do some self-care? Because underneath there, to a degree, there is this, what?
I feel there's this need to be needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, if I can uphold 10 different things, then these 4 people, they need me. So I want, what didn't they get when they were little,
right,
to make them feel needed and have a purpose?
That's right.
I think it's cultural.
Yes.
A lot of it is.
Yes.
Not just within certain ethnic communities, but definitely within the American culture.
That's true.
We have to be doing something all the time. Otherwise, we're seen as lazy.
Unproductive.
You know, how come you're not doing? Why is it that you're over here laying like a beach bum? Why
Go
deserve
do
that?
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's good.
And so self-worth gets tied
Yes.
into all of this activity
Yeah.
that we're involved in. Even individuals who, we ended the last segment as you related your story just about your own accountability that you are able to have from your wife and from your daughter that creates healthy space for you to really think about your stress levels, right?
Yes.
And we talked about how easy it is for people who are in fields like we're in, for the police force, law enforcement, counseling, the ministry, who are inherently servants, people who want to serve other people, who want to help other people. That's part of our DNA, right? And so in service of other people, we take this on, we take that on, we take on the other thing, we take on the other thing. And so there's that piece of it. And then if you add in that, is there a part of that that needs to take this on
Right.
because I want to be seen as whatever, or all of that can then contribute to how much stress we create in our lives because we're trying to fill a void, a need internally by the work that we do.
That's true.
And the things that we engage in, right? And we even talked about just how folks who are inherently service-oriented and have multiple talents, by the time we put our 7 things on our plate, and then folks see that we can do these things, then they want to add some more stuff.
Right.
Can you do this? Can you do this? And then if we say no, can we say, well, do we say no? No.
That's a whole nother topic.
What does
The
that mean?
power
That's
of
another
no.
the power of
Power
no.
of no.
But why don't we say no? Again, that's kind of potentially embedded in identity, right? I don't want to say no because this feeds something in me. It feels
Right.
good that people recognize me, and so they ask me to do this, and so I want to do it because of that, or I want to help. If I don't help, then nobody else will help. All
right.
these different types
That's
of
true.
Right.
thoughts that run through people's heads, right? And it's different for different people, but underneath there becomes that what we talked about, which is how attuned are we, right? Now, we talked about it in terms of attunement to our physical, attunement to our emotional, but also attuned to our thought processes
Yeah.
and understanding ourselves. Why am I doing this? Is there a reason, right?
Yeah.
Is there a reason?
Well, and to that point that you just mentioned, the why, I ask myself that why question a lot. When I get too much on my plate, I have ebbs and flows. I have the time periods where I have those 10 things on my plate, and I'm trying to be superhuman and all this other stuff that raises my stress level. And then when it's I can feel it and it's evident in my behavior, then I have to scale back and say, you know what? That's when I start the de-stress process. I'll start pulling stuff off my plate a little bit at a time. And so that's not the best way to do things, but some people put 10 things on their plate, then they add 2 more, then they add 3 more, and so it's always increasing until the weight is too much. Just like the person on the internet was talking
Kevin.
about the foundation and building a house and the stress level. Foundations are built for a certain amount of weight to go on top of it in construction. And if you build a 5-story building on a 2-story lot, that's going to cause problems in the foundation. We build too many stories on top of our lives, but our capacity is only at a certain point. And so until someone helps us to be true to that, we're going to be stressed out and have all types of other issues that come in. Because stress causes sickness and disease to come in, mentally, physically, emotionally. And so we have to get back to de-stress, a de-stress process, okay? How can I say no? It's okay to say no. Say no nicely. No, ma'am, I'm not going to be able to do that. No, sir, I can't do that this week. When we get to the point where it's okay to say no. It doesn't make you a bad person to say no.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
No,
No,
and the first
no.
few times you say it, especially if you're a pleaser,
Right.
it's hard.
It was.
You know, yeah. I mean, you have to realize what your capacity is.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's okay to say no. I tell people all the time, it's a full sentence. No.
Yeah.
Period. You know, it's okay. No.
You have to
And
have to
smile.
say
With a
no.
smile. There you go. That's a nice
You know
smile.
I love you, right?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
It's not gonna work.
That's right.
Oh man.
And see, this is another component of de-stressing. And when I talk about community, when you know a person, that helps relieve stress. Even when you get a no, when you know a person's heart. We've gotten away from in community. This is some of what I was thinking about when I formed the question. We don't know each other like we should. And that in and of itself creates stress.
Yeah.
We don't know our neighbors like we used to 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So everybody's segmented and divided and singled out. And so there was a time where you could go across the street and get butter and sugar. If you lived in the projects like I did back in Brooklyn, New York, you can go across the hall and borrow something from somebody. They'd borrow it from you. People knew each other. People would talk to each other. But now we live in a you're passing people. Some people don't halfway speak. The whole persona and how we live life is not based on unity. It's not based on us being one community. It's always, there's 20 families or 30 homes. But we used to thrive. I know when we had a better sense of community. I was kept out of a lot of trouble in Brooklyn, New York, because neighbors that knew me and my parents would see me somewhere I didn't have any business being, and they would address me and say, Charles, my family calls me Charles Jr. Does your mom know you over here? And would tell my mom if I didn't get back home when I was supposed to get back home. A sense of community creates a safe space.
Yes, it does.
And we're missing that
Yeah.
in our communities right now. We look at people as enemies as opposed to creating friendships with other people.
And I imagine that it's harder to do that in today's day and age. It's become harder as the
It's
decades have progressed, just because, one, we're more busy, but two, people have access to so many other things through the internet
Yes.
that the need to connect is easily ignored.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that it's not necessary, because that's not right. It's just more easily ignored. And pseudo connection with people through the internet has become acceptable and to a degree satisfying, I suppose, without people really knowing that there has been a loss that they don't quite grasp in terms of community and connection. I mean, we think about family and community and how that all works together, and even just changes in the family unit. We'll talk about that when we come back as well. Here on the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show, we're going to take a quick break.
Tune in every Monday from 10 a.m. to noon right here on IBNX Radio for the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show.
Are you an entrepreneur, high-profile influencer, or creative that wants to level up in your business? If you are ready to elevate mentally, stand out visually, and dominate digitally, the Brand Doctor has the remedy. As a highly sought-after mindset coach and brand strategist, she helps clients globally to hit the ground running. Contact www.moebrandstudio.com or email getbranded@moebrandstudio.com.
People don't value that like
Yeah.
they should now.
Yeah.
That's critical.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show. We just kept talking during the break, and we had a comment from Shauna, who was talking to us about boundaries, right? And she said that saying no actually just helps people set better boundaries around themselves and for other people, right? And not to cross those boundaries. That is such a huge part of being able to create safe space where you can manage stress.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. What was that first part of the comment that she made? I can't remember.
She has to she has to handle things one
One
thing
at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, so she's not the multitasker.
No, she's not the multitasker.
And she sounds like she's okay with that.
Yeah.
She sounds like she's okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
So when we talk about community, and I consider family part of community.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we talk about family and community and the role that it plays in developing healthy stress levels and managing your stress and being able to develop healthy self-care rituals, and we talk about the idea that community is not what it used to be. Family is also, in a lot of ways, not what it used to be. It's just so much more spread out, depending on who you are and what, it's not the same for everyone, but in a lot of cases, families are no longer in the same neighborhood. It used to be that mom, sister, aunt, uncle,
Everybody's right
within a
there.
few block radius,
Yes.
everybody was right there.
That's right. That's exactly.
That is
how-
not
yeah.
the case anymore.
Yeah.
People
Right.
are across the country, right? Not
Across
even
the
necessarily
planet
in
even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Some of them
Yeah.
you want
They
to
are,
stay
they're
across the planet.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
It's real. It's real.
Yes.
Some people aren't healthy for you because they don't understand boundaries.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so when you
Yeah.
can love them across,
There you go.
it's good. That's healthy for people who are servants, who are
Right.
pleasers, who have no control over saying no.
Right.
Well, then I would say that might be healthy for individual people in your life. But for the majority of people in your life, it's not healthy to have them at a distance.
It's
Right.
not.
Right.
You
I agree.
need to have people around you.
That community.
But that goes back to what Charles was saying. He said, you have to know in your life
Yes.
who's an asset. I believe in assets and liabilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you are not an asset at this point in my life, is it best for me to keep you there?
Yeah.
It's not that I don't love you.
Right.
Yeah.
But I have to do what's best for me
Yeah.
because we are such people who are always out there. So within your community, whether it's your family, immediate family, or church family,
Right,
or whatever, let them be an asset to you. Why not?
So how do we let people be assets? That's a good way to say it. It's an interesting way to say it. You're talking about allowing people to be assets to you. It's almost as though you're suggesting that people intentionally keep people at an arm's length for one reason or another. And intentionally, or maybe not so, don't accept help or accountability from others when it comes to self-care, stress, building community, building connection. Why would that be? Why would people just kind of go, right here?
One reason people do that, and I my wife and I talk about this a lot with people that we minister to or counsel, and I see it when I counsel people at the church. One of the things that makes good community is the word trust. There is no relationship that works when there's no trust.
Yeah.
It could be a personal relationship. It could be a marriage relationship. It could be a dating relationship. It could be a teacher-student relationship. It could be police officers with folks in the community. It could be, just to keep it real, it could be a president and citizens of a country. It doesn't matter if there's no trust. There's a tremendous amount of stress that's created when we have to interact.
Yes.
And by the same token, when I trust you, it's you're a safe place when I trust you. And
Right.
so that's what leads relationships. So when people do this constantly, this is a question I ask folks when I counsel them at the church. I ask them what their support network looks like. Who helps them with their kids? Who do they do self-care with, hang out, have hobbies or whatever, fun night, whatever they do or should do. And when people tell me they don't have any friends, it really alarms and bothers me. Especially if I'm like, okay, well, did you just move to Atlanta? No, I've been here 10 years. I've been here 15 years. I've been here all my life. And you don't have any friends? That's a huge indication of, to me, fear. That means I've been hurt by people, and I refuse to allow people back in my life
To hurt me again. Yeah.
But that's unhealthy.
Right.
When you isolate yourself, you isolate yourself not just from the hurt, and I think Brene Brown talks about that. You isolate yourself also from assets and things that could help you. So your resources are kept away the same way the hurt is kept away.
So part of that then is the inability to distinguish
The two.
who is safe
Right.
and who is not.
You don't know the people around you.
You can't figure
You've
that
got
out.
to know
Right.
who you're dealing with.
You do. You have to know. You have to open yourself up to know, but you also have to trust your judgment.
Yeah.
Part of that too is trusting other people. In addition to that is how much do you trust your own judgment
Right.
to be able to distinguish the safe people from the unsafe people, to
Right.
really choose the people that can be assets to you versus trusting yourself or not trusting yourself so much so that, oh gosh, if I make a mistake, then right? And so part of the work that folks need to do then when that pushback, when that stiff arm is there, is how do I then begin to learn myself in a different way so that I know how to choose the people that will be safest for me? How
And
do I gain
learning-
that skill?
I think also learning not to feel like you have to be able to discern every relationship all the time, all by yourself. That's when, for me, the mentorship piece comes in. Who in your life is a trusted mentor? It doesn't have to be 12 people, 1 or 2 people who love you. For me, as a man of God that know the Lord, that can talk to you and say, I know you're in this relationship as an example, but something's not right. Let's sit down and talk about it. Let's pray about it. However you handle it, because we need to be able to listen to other people's opinion that we value. So you need to have some discernment, but also, back in 50 years ago, you had a big mama, or you had an old uncle who had some wisdom that could look at somebody or be in a situation with you and say, I don't think he's for you, or and then he could tell you why. And so we when we isolate ourselves, we shut off our discernment because we just don't want to deal with the potential of getting hurt again, and we don't even trust someone to help us make decisions, critical decisions in life, because we've just cut everybody off.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, as well, there's got to be an expectation that you will actually make a mistake sometimes.
Yes.
But even if you make a mistake, you don't have to handle the mistake by yourself necessarily, right? If you have those trusted individuals, those are the people that you lean on. So to be able to manage, and so you begin to increase your trust and your resiliency, your ability to bounce back from a mistake that everybody will make.
That's right.
That's just a part of life.
That's correct.
Right? And so you build capacity
Yes.
to be able to engage with people, get the good, see the bad, allow the bad to keep flowing, stick with the good, keep it moving, and build strong community that allows you to manage stress and manage the difficult parts of your life, not alone, just in a better way. Yeah.
And perspective is critical. Something you just said. Number one, there has to be some failure in your life because you're human, because I'm human, and we have to see perspective, or we have to see failure differently. Do you learn from your failure? My pastor always says, and this is the title of a John Maxwell book, that we learn from our successes. Oh, he says it like this: you win some and you learn some. So losing is never in the conversation.
Right.
When you lose, you learn. So my failures really help build my character. But if we're so afraid of failing or messing up something, we can never really get to the success that we need to get to.
Yeah.
There's some statistics that was given to me that most people who start businesses, you go through 3 or 4 failed businesses before you have a successful business.
More than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so but if you're not willing to deal with the failures, because you're taking it personal, then you can't become what you say you want to become. People that are successful went through a lot to get there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The
And if
most
we're not
successful
willing-
people failed several times.
Several times.
I was listening to Denzel give a motivational
Yes.
speech a couple of weeks ago, and he said to the young people he was talking to, listen, fall down 7 times.
There you go.
Get
That's
up
scripture.
8.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right.
Get up 8.
Oprah Winfrey,
Keep it going.
who was told she would never be on the radio. There's so many people who dealt with adversity and discouragement, but because they pressed through, they have become or gone along the path that God would have them to go along and become what it is that in most cases that he wanted them to become. We have to have some endurance
Yeah.
Right.
in life. In grad school, you need some endurance.
You need more than
help me,
endurance. You need
Jesus.
endurance. You need a whole
Am
lot of
I
other
right?
stuff.
Amen.
But not for nothing. The endurance is one piece. The stress comes with the endurance.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And with stress can sometimes come depression, anxiety, all of those mental health pieces, right? In addition to the physical aspects of it. But what helps you endure in a healthy way, what helps you manage the stress, can be community.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right? The
Yes.
people around you that are holding you up, that are cheering you on, that are giving you some relief here in this area or that area, or just listening to you, or whatever it is, or just around to make you laugh, or just whatever it would be, right? To go for a walk with you, whatever it would be, right? And so community, while you're enduring that race, becomes critical to be able to manage it without falling into serious depression, without falling into serious anxiety, without falling into serious medical situations, high blood pressure, hearts, stroke, just heart attack, stroke, all those types of things that come from high stress, right? And so it just becomes critical to be able to do that. And I think when you are able to create in your family space for listening and accountability, that's very helpful, because the flip side of that,
It's critical.
the flip side of that is you're snapping at your kids, right? Or you're isolating yourself
Right.
from your wife or your husband because you're so stressed you don't even want to hear anything. So you come home and you go to your room and you close the door, right? Or you come home and you grab some out of the fridge and then you go to your room and close the door and don't even have dinner with the family. Just little things like that. Or if your kid wants help with homework, you don't have the capacity to sit down for an hour and help them with homework because you're too stressed. Because during the day, you didn't pace your day and you didn't take your 10 minutes here and your 10 minutes there to just kind of recalibrate and relieve your brain for a second and just kind of de-stress, right? Knowing that at the end of the day, stuff's coming. Now, there's no perfect way to do it, right? There's no necessarily way to say that there's just not going to be any stress. That's not necessarily realistic.
Right.
But we're talking about managing it
Right.
in a healthy way.
Yes.
We're talking about understanding triggers so that we
Yes.
catch it early when things are starting to be stressful, to be able to take a step back, knowing that if we don't watch the trigger, where we're headed is can't sleep, nausea, punch
Right.
somebody in the face.
Road rage.
Road rage. Yeah. Yeah.
I like what you said, though. You said good community equals trust, right? And I was sitting here thinking about what does it mean for me to trust somebody, that means I now have to be vulnerable with you.
Yes.
Right.
That's critical.
Right.
But it's necessary.
It's necessary.
Yeah.
That's a
But
hard
how?
word.
It is.
Yes,
So
it is.
how do you, as someone who has a hard time connecting with community, right? Who's so important for us. God did not create us to be isolated.
Right.
He created us to be in a
relationship,
in
yeah.
relationship with other people. So how do I now become vulnerable with you all,
Right.
who's here to support me and who's here to help? You know, it talks about discernment. Kevin, he says discernment cannot function in isolation.
Right.
That's good. That's good.
We can't.
Yeah.
We can't. So how do we become vulnerable in learning other people?
One step at a time,
That's
one person at a time, right? There's no need to become vulnerable to a bunch of
No.
people.
That's unhealthy.
That is
That's
unhealthy
unhealthy.
and unsafe.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and as you begin to learn to discern,
Right.
right, with the help of some other person, whether that is initially maybe a counselor that you go and see, or initially your pastor, if you feel safe with your pastor, and most pastors are safe. Every now and then, you know, one or two are not. You find a safe counselor. Most counselors are safe. Every now and then, one or two are not. But you find that person, and then one step at a time, one
Right.
conversation at a time,
Right. Right.
you begin to understand what we talk about as counselors, and as we train counselors at Richmond. What we talk about is how do you then create a space for a safe, corrective, emotional experience, right? That person who is struggling to be vulnerable with someone has had emotional experiences that have taught them that it's not safe to
That's
be
true.
vulnerable.
That's true.
They've been hurt, right? And so in counseling, part of what you're trying to do is create a safe, corrective emotional experience that allows people to see, oh, there's something different that I could experience, right? If I were with a safe person.
That's right.
That revelation is the first step to really being able to be vulnerable in a safe space and know there's an outcome different from the negative one.
That's right.
There's a potential positive outcome, and I felt it in this counseling relationship, right? And then from there is where you begin to grow and begin to take one step at a time towards being able to be vulnerable in the right community, in
Right.
safe community.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
That's important.
yeah.
But that vulnerability is critical. And even, you know, having somebody to go to help you with being vulnerable and trusting someone, it's not even always a professional. I've talked to people before, and when I learn about their, you know, if they have some friends around them, and we can identify someone who's a good friend, I'll ask them questions. Well, what does your good friend actually tell you? And they'll say, well, you know, she told me that I don't need to do this, or that I need, and it's good advice. And then I'll say, did you listen to your friend? And a lot of times they're like, they didn't need a degree. They didn't need certification.
Right.
It was a good friend that cared for them.
Yeah.
Yes, that
And their good friend
Yeah.
told them or
Yeah.
gave them good advice a lot of times, but they didn't follow it.
Yeah,
And so then I'll talk to them about that. That's part of your problem.
yes.
It's
So,
not receive. If you get something good,
Yeah,
you don't eat from somebody you chose as a friend.
yeah. And what was the block there?
Exactly.
Understanding
Why
what
is
was the
that?
block, why you didn't want to listen to your
To
friend.
your friend.
Yes,
Right.
what was the block? Especially if the friend is a good friend,
Yeah.
which says they have a level of discernment
That's correct.
because they have picked a good friend. So it's there.
That's true.
So what is now the block? Why
Right.
you can't listen to the friend that you picked? Yeah. So that becomes the conversation.
So that in those situations, that's not, well, people hurt me. That's you refuse to receive
Right.
from a safe source what you needed. So that's something internally they
Yes.
have to work on, you know, because after a while, even a safe source is going to stop talking
Yeah.
if we're not listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you have to look at it like from the perspective of the person. What's motivating them?
Yes.
From not listening.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Is it because a need is being met, whether good or bad?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times that's what we're seeing. Their need is so great, that void is so great,
That's true.
that if I listen to you, someone that loves me dearly,
Yeah.
then guess what's going to happen? That void is going to be there again, and I'm going to feel some type of way. And it's going to hurt, and I don't want to hurt,
And I don't know how to deal with that.
and I don't know how to do
I
it.
don't
And that's
have
what we
another
have
way.
to talk about.
Yes.
We have to talk about that
Yeah.
right there. Why would you feel that way? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's behind that?
Right.
What's behind that? What happened?
Yeah.
behind
Shauna,
that?
my girlfriend, she's one of those people I listen to because Shauna, she multitasks very well, but she knows she has great boundaries. I love her for this.
Yeah.
She keeps me in check a lot of times. So when I'm feeling some type of way, I'll call her and I'll say, what do you think? What do you think? And she'll quickly say, okay, well, this is what I'm seeing. But when you're ready, when you're sick and tired of being there,
Let me know.
let me know.
Let me know.
And I'll still be
Let
here.
me know.
That's perfect.
That's great. And we'll talk more about that too when we come back. We're going to take a break right here on the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show.
That's good.
Do you want peace in your family relationships instead of conflict? Do you want a safe, loving marriage instead of one that is failing? Are you troubled about what's happening with your children and need help for them? At Legacy Changers Counseling Centers, the goal is to strengthen individuals and families with cutting-edge emotional and mental health interventions. The exceptionally trained counselors at Legacy provide the specialized guidance you need in a safe environment of belonging so that you can make the life changes you and your loved ones need. Get real help for your emotional and relationship needs. Call today at 404-334-7575. That's 404-334-7575. You can also find us on the web at legacychangerscounseling.com. Call now and transform your life today. 404-334-7575 or legacychangerscounseling.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show. And so we've been talking about stress today with Reverend Dr. Charles Houston, Associate Pastor at Word of Faith. We didn't get a chance to just kind of hear more about what you do at Word of Faith. So tell us a little bit about Word of Faith, what you do there, and then after that we'll go to questions from the community.
Word of Faith is a ministry that was established in 1991 by my senior pastor, who's our bishop, and my spiritual father, Bishop Dale C. Bronner. The church, the main church is in Austell, Georgia. What I do personally is I am the associate pastor, the pastor of counseling. And so I do individual counseling, relationship counseling, premarital classes I teach on Thursday evenings, and I also do individual premarital and marriage counseling. So that's kind of the bulk of what I do. We wear many hats at the church as a staff, but the bulk of what I do is counseling people. I teach some classes. One of them is a new members class that I teach on finance. But I love my job. I love what I do, and so that becomes a platform for me to set boundaries for myself, because it's easy to get overloaded in what you love.
Yes, it is.
And so even from a community of faith perspective, I learned a lesson years ago when I was a deacon at another church. One of the other deacons' wives spoke to me and gave me some wisdom. She said, because she saw that I was at everything all the time, every time something happened, I was there.
When the church opened,
and when the church opened, and when the church closed,
you were there.
And she said, she said, Deacon Houston, I'm gonna tell you something I had to tell my husband a while ago. She said, you don't have to be here every time the doors of the church are open. And it was from a place of love, because she could see that I was just all the time running, and I enjoyed it. But it takes a toll after a while.
Oh, yeah.
And so I needed that wisdom from her, and she loved me enough to tell me that. And so now, when she put that in my spirit, I meditate on that at times. Okay, I'm always busy, but am I getting over busy? Okay, I got to pump my brakes a little bit, and remember that there's multiple other servants and people in the church that can do certain things, and I need to go home.
Yes.
At a certain point.
That's right. That's right.
I'm only one person, and my effectiveness is limited because I'm one person. And if I burn out, then what good am I?
What good are you?
And so
what good are you? And how do you know, just in general, when you're doing too much, right? It's when you don't have time for self-care.
Yeah.
right.
You're doing too much.
That's good.
If you don't have time to take care of yourself.
Or if you don't have time for what's important or what should be important, like your family.
Yes.
Family is critical. If my family's not taken care of, then I'm going home.
Yes.
And some people get to the point where they don't recognize, okay, I'm doing more for my job or for the ministry or for my business than I am for my family. And this is a principle that our bishop taught us too. He got from his father, Nathaniel Bronner Sr. He used to teach his boys that you can't build your business on the altar of your family. And then your priority system should be God first, family second, and then business and ministry and everything else is third. And so I frequently go back to that model for myself. God is first. That's my personal time. That's not ministry. That's my personal time with him.
And that's part of self-care.
It is.
Yes.
That is part of self-care as well.
Yeah.
It's part of self-care.
Yeah.
That's critical.
Yeah.
And so when I'm getting out of order and I'm stepping over my own boundaries, I go back to my priority model.
Okay.
God first, family second, and then everything else is third.
Yeah, and I think too, to fold into that, the idea of managing stress and we think about if we don't have enough time for our family, then we're not allotting our time well.
That's right.
Part of taking care of our family also involves taking care of ourselves.
Selves.
Right.
Because we have to
Right.
we have to have longevity.
Right.
We have to be physically and mentally and emotionally available
Yeah.
in order to be there for our family.
That's true.
Right.
And that means walking, exercise, sleep, all those things that contribute to stress, needing
Right.
to ameliorating all of those with being able to do those things that will help to push down our stress level.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Rhonda said it's about balance. It's all
Yeah.
about balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
That's a good word. Yep.
I tell you what, that balance word has gotten thrown around a whole lot in society, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what balance looks like from season to season in your life will be different,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
That's good.
And so we have to kind of understand that there's never such a thing as perfect balance.
True.
There's just imbalances that are not so unhealthy that right. And so just it's something to have an accountability partner for, to be able to really understand what is the balance in my life right now that I need to have and why.
Yeah.
Right.
Why and what would be the healthiest way for me to maintain that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what do we have in terms of questions from the community?
Okay, well, one of the questions we have from the community today is going to be, how can you bond with your stepchild?
How can you bond with your stepchild?
Right.
Okay, that sounds like, that sounds like a show we did
Blended
before.
families?
Was it Blended
I
Families?
think so.
Blended
We
families.
talked
right.
some about bonding with stepchildren. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like to be the devil's advocate on this.
Yes, of course you do.
You
Of
know,
course you do.
so you have two different types of stepchildren. You have the ones that are just well behaved, the kind that I like, you know, that just are good and they just fall into the flow. But then you have those others that can be a little difficult because you're not mom or dad,
Right.
right? There's
The
maybe-
challengers.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so part of then bonding with that difficult one is understanding what is that about for that
Right.
child.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It becomes really important for it not to be about you
Right.
as the parent, but for it to be about how can I best understand what
Right.
is the internal turmoil
Right.
that's happening for this young person that they don't know how to manage in any other way than to take it out on me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And that could be very much the reality.
Yeah.
And so really stepping out of self and really being able to try to step into those shoes. What would it be like for me if I,
Right.
Right. Right. We're in that position.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. How would I feel if what would I be thinking if I, not an adult I, a child I,
Yes.
Right.
right?
That's a fearful place to be in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. How does that child make sense of the world now?
Right.
They can't.
Right.
That's their struggle. They're
Right.
struggling to make sense of the world.
Right. Right.
Right. It's been what I knew was safe is no longer. What I thought was true now seems like a lie.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? How do I make sense of that if I'm 7, 10,
And
15?
the question can even come to that child, what makes this new family
Yes.
different from that old family?
Yes.
When is this going to be like
That.
that?
How can I trust
Yeah.
Yeah.
that this won't end up like that?
Just like that.
And what was so wrong with that family? My original family.
Right, right,
You
right.
know what I'm
right.
saying? And that's a lot to really sit and think about. And
Yeah.
as a parent, you know, just kind of thinking about it, I really feel like the individual has to be strong within themselves and be confident enough to know that it's not about them.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Right.
And they have to be mature in that area.
It's not an indictment of them.
It's
Yeah.
not.
Don't take it personal.
No.
Don't take it personally.
Exactly.
And you have to know, you have to have a prepared mindset to know when you come in to start a blended family, this is going to be difficult.
Oh yeah.
And you have to me, develop, you have to have a higher level or capacity to love that child, even than maybe even your own
children.
natural
Right.
child.
Right.
That's a whole different level.
Yeah.
Because again, we're talking about knowing people. They don't know you.
Right.
Right.
And so now you're dealing with the lack of connection. And so you're trying to bond, but part of their job to stay safe is not to bond with you. They're in self-protection mode, rightfully so.
Right.
And so your patience level also, and the Bible says love is patient, love is kind.
And kind.
You have to increase your level or desire to love that child. And consistent love usually wins out. But sometimes we don't have the patience to keep managing that relationship, even when it's child doesn't want anything to do with you. Okay.
Yeah, and so when you talk about loving that child, so you distinguish between, you're not necessarily loving the behavior. That's not
Right.
what we're talking about.
Right.
Right.
We're looking to love the humanness of that child,
Right.
the vulnerable pieces of that child that's struggling,
Right.
right? And loving them enough to allow them space to try to figure all of that out. Right? So then what does that look like practically, right? That's what we think about. That's how we think about understanding it, right? So what does that look like practically? Well, practically, it probably looks like learning to listen well,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? Learning to listen well, right? Without having to rebut or advise or none of that. Just listen,
Yes.
right? What did that kid say? Even in anger that they said to you.
Right.
If you pull the anger away,
Yeah.
what did they really say? Right? If you take yourself out of it, what are they really trying to communicate? And if you can learn to hear what is not necessarily overtly said, you're beginning then, and then can reflect that to that child without personal, affront, then eventually the child will begin to see that you're actually listening
Right.
in a way that they totally would not have expected.
Yeah.
And that is a skill
Right.
that you have to develop
Yeah.
if you don't know how to do that, right? And so just really being able to take yourself out of it, put a glass wall, let the anger bounce off the glass wall,
Right.
and let what's trying to be communicated through that glass so that you can actually hear and understand what's going on. The other piece is it's not something that you should do alone.
Right.
You have a partner
That's
Right.
correct.
who is the biological parent of that child.
Right.
Yeah.
And this should be done in partnership
Yeah.
with that particular person.
Right.
Right? And so it really should be the both of you. How do we understand what's happening for
Right.
this child?
Right.
Right? Because there's a
Right.
whole lot tied up in that too, right? And so what's that relationship like between the child and the biological parent? Much less the stepkid, but the parent, right? And is there a level of understanding, and is that person coming alongside you to help with the bridging of that particular bond and the building of that bond?
Yeah. That's
critical.
That's key. Yeah. Coming alongside, and allowing that child to know that new parent is not there to replace that other parent. That new parent is there as an addition
Right,
to your life now.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing to think about is the stepchild is one thing, but what about you? Right, so what's your agenda? What's your agenda as the step parent? Right? What is all this about for you?
That's right.
And where are you contributing to the conflict?
Right.
Being honest with yourself about what's happening internally for you. Is there a need that you have that you're trying to meet by pressing this relationship with the stepchild in a way that it may be forcing something out? I don't know. It's different for different step parents. The relationships are different.
Yeah.
Making sure that you are in a healthy space as a step parent, regardless of what's happening with that young person, you have to be in a healthy space in order to really be able to connect well with that child. And so your own level of self-evaluation around where you are in your relationship with the new mate that you have, your own personal sense of self, and healthy, hopefully, sense of self, all of that also needs to be as important and addressed, even more so, even before even trying to bond with the stepchild. Because if there is anything going on in this relationship with the new mate that's just not working out really well, you know, you got to deal with that first before you even step to that stepchild. You're laughing.
That's all good. And that's right. And I think that when people are in blended family situations, sometimes either they put more focus on trying to make their relationship to that new mate work, which obviously needs work, but they tend to forget about or don't put as much emphasis on that stepchild and us as a family.
Yes.
What's this going to look like for everybody?
Oh, and that's a conversation that should have happened even before the whole thing came together. So, but
That's
that's for the next segment. That's for the next segment.
You said
We're gonna
something
take a break. We're taking a break. We'll be right back with the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show. We have been talking today about stress and managing stress through community, and we talked about step parent relationships, and how to think about those and how to manage through those. And so we're winding down now. Time always seems to go a whole lot faster than I think it is. We've got just a few minutes left, and so I want to try to recap the things that we really want folks to take away from the show today, and just kind of point to some of the most important things. Everything that we talked about is important, but what are the key takeaways that we really want to make sure that people don't leave without when we talk about managing stress?
One point that I want to bring back to the forefront that I think you mentioned earlier is that community is not built in a group. It's built one relationship at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to work on individual relationships one at a time and develop a safe place with each one, and build and grow outwardly from there. Not try to just go to parties or even go to church or go to places where there's bunches of people and try to get 30 people to be our friend. We have to develop individual connection with people, and then grow from there. Other relationships.
Absolutely. What else?
For me, I really enjoyed good community equals trust, which means learning to be vulnerable within that relationship. And again, it goes back to one relationship at a time, and just building healthy relationships that are going to, again, my word is assets, be an asset to your life and to those around you.
And that brings up another point. Be an asset to your life, but also how you can then be an asset to theirs.
Absolutely.
Because really and truly, that mutual, that mutuality is really important. It's one thing when someone can contribute to your life, but you have a whole different sense of self, a whole different sense of connection when you are impacting someone else's life in a positive way, right? And so it also is connected with your belief and desire to contribute to the life of someone else, right, as part of your community, right? So there's that as well.
It makes me think about the statement, in order to have a good friend, you have to present yourself friendly.
Yes.
And everything begins with us. How, and to coin the phrase from the Bible, you reap what you sow. So are your intentions and your motivations in reaching out to people or being around people to contribute anything, as opposed to taking and just receiving all the time?
And so that also then points to just doing your own work, because if you believe that you don't have anything to contribute, therein is another problem. Because that can be part of it as well, right? Your own belief in just who you are, and the fact that what you have just in who you are is valuable to offer to someone else, right? And so if you struggle with that as well, it just creates continued isolation, and continued isolation leads to even more levels of stress that you then have to deal with by yourself. Right? And so it just can be a very vicious cycle. Yeah. I think one thing to think about too is to understand your thresholds. Understanding, we talked about the idea of triggers, so we're talking about stress thresholds, and being mindful and attuned to your body, attuned to your emotions, to know when stress levels are increasing and intervening at early stages, not when you're sick physically or you're depressed and can't get out of bed or have anxiety to the point of it being unmanageable, or rage, or ready to punch somebody in the face. Right, we're going to come back to that over and over again. That's just awesome.
I didn't say I would do it. Listen,
You're not alone.
No.
I know.
No,
You
no.
are not
Oh
alone.
God, at all. You just admit it.
You just
Right,
admit it.
right.
Yes, but you're not alone. I have had, oh my gosh, I have had stress to the point where sometimes I wish certain people, the ground would just open up and swallow them.
That's biblical too.
Yes.
Never to be seen.
Never. And I would not mourn. At that time, I would not have mourned
Oh
it.
goodness.
Oh, man. All right, what else? Just dealing with stress. Let's talk about ways that people can deal with stress in healthy ways.
Well, I like what you said earlier was about taking that 10 minutes.
That's
love
exactly
that.
what I was going to say.
Take that
That's
10
good,
minutes
Juan.
twice
Yeah.
a day
Yeah.
to just relax your mind.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
think of anything, not bother with anything. Just take that 10 minutes twice a day and just let everything subside.
Yeah, and if you can't stop your brain, because that would happen to me. I take the 10 minutes and my brain won't stop. So I have this app on my phone called
Redirect
Calm.
the brain.
Redirect the brain. Calm, CALM. And that allows me to refocus. And I listen to that app. And I have different ones that I've picked that I like. And it does wonders. And then let that be your 10 minutes of
Right.
Yeah.
being able to re-stress, refocus, and calm your brain down. And again, 10 minutes twice a day has huge impact on decreasing your stress levels. It really impacts the decrease of stress in your autonomic nervous system. And down the road, in terms of brain health, as you get older, it can potentially push dementia back, right? I mean, it just, if you already are predisposed, right? It's just really important for you to take care of that type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Do the research, y'all. Do the research.
Yes.
What else? Exercise.
Oh yes, definitely.
Do your exercise. Get outside.
Yeah.
Get outside. Walk. It doesn't have to be an hour walk. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go to Kennesaw Mountain, although
That's a good.
it's a great place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? But just get outside and walk. Get with people who make you smile.
Yeah.
Laugh.
Laughing is
Right.
very
Oh my
good.
God.
Yeah.
Get with
I love
people
it.
That's huge
who
for me.
joke. Don't be so serious.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't take your life that seriously. You're not that serious.
Right.
Just,
Right.
just go laugh with somebody. I have a couple of girlfriends. Oh my gosh, when we get together, the children get so mad over the years. We'd be in the same house,
Yeah.
right? And they'd want to watch a movie over here, and we're over here, and we're just cackling.
I love it.
And they turn
good.
around, and they're like,
Really? Like really?
like what?
Right.
What?
It's a movie. You can rewind.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
That's right.
Get some lavender.
Yes.
Lavender is really relaxing. It's reported research-wise just to really help with just bringing your stress levels down. I get the oil, lavender oil.
Yep.
I rub it on my hands at night.
Yeah.
I rub my feet with it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got that from. I read someplace somebody rubbed their feet with it and just kind of helped them do that kind
I
of thing.
forgot what it is, but there are nerve endings in your feet that
Okay.
that connect
It runs
to
through
different
your
parts of your
entire
body.
body.
There you
I forgot
go.
the name of
See?
it. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you
I
go.
say nutrition is very good too when dealing with stress. I think I don't know about you guys. At the end of your grad school, I was stuffing my face with like fast food, just on the go,
Yeah.
and I felt heavy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then I was like, you know what? I
good
need to
diet.
detox.
Yeah.
I need to, add more greenery in my life, more protein smoothies and stuff, more water.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that helped relieve some of the stress I was
Yes.
feeling as
Yes.
well.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that we were talking about, community.
Yeah.
Build that community.
Yeah.
In order to help you with stress.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nothing like having someone to be able to talk to and vent, your issues to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Build that community.
Yeah. Yoga, mindfulness,
Mindfulness, I was thinking about.
Mindfulness
Yeah.
is
journaling
Oh
is
yeah.
really helpful. Talk it out with somebody. All of those things are just really helpful things to help you manage your stress. So we're at the end of our time. Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Charles Houston.
Thank you
from
for
Word of
having
Faith. Glad to have you as usual. And of course, you'll come back.
Yes.
All right. And Monique and Juan.
Thank you, guys.
You guys, thanks for tuning in on
Yes.
Facebook Live. And we will see you next week, 10 a.m., right here on the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show. Coming up next is the Leadership Blend with Ricardo Rice at 12. So stay tuned. See you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show. If you have any questions about the broadcast, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Sonja at www.helpformyfamily.com. That's www.helpformyfamily.com. And be sure to join us every week at this same time for the Dr. Sonja Sutherland Show, right here on IBNX Radio.
IBNX. IBNXradio.com. The station with the best music. Best music.
I love the music.
Best music. Hey, what's up? It's Jay-Z.
Hey, I'm Mariah Carey. Hey, it's Katy Perry.
It's your boy T.I.P., man. Get it. It's your boy Sean Kingston.
What's up, y'all? I'm Beyonce. This is Nicki Minaj, and I'm in the mix with
IBNX Radio.